On this episode of Slainte, we take flight with Two Crows Brewing in Halifax, Nova Scotia, to discover an innovative combination of urban craft industry and traditional ingredients. We'll find out just what it takes to succeed in the beating heart of the Maritimes as both the sales and success of Two Crows Brewing continues to soar. Today, I was in downtown Halifax at Two Crows Brewing, where their team had been hard at work setting up a centralized nest of craft activity a stone's throw from the historic Halifax Citadel. To learn about where the inspiration had come from and how this all got started, I first spoke with one of the co-founders, Mark.
We were looking for spaces, and we were working with a realtor who gave us a list of places to look at, and we were actually looking at a place down the street. And then as we were leaving, he was like, oh, there's this other place that's right down there. If you guys want to take a look, it could potentially work. It's quite a large space. And we're like, oh, in the bottom of that apartment building? Like, yeah, that's probably not going to work. But whatever, we're here, so we'll take a look.
That's a beautiful spot.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's we're pretty happy with how it turned out. We wanted to keep it open so that people who are drinking beer here can ask the brewer questions and just see every part of the process from beginning to end. It's not a huge space. It's only about 4,400 square feet, so the tour is pretty short. But we wanted people to come here and experience a brewery and then see kind of, I guess, taste the beer that we're producing, right in front of their eyes. That was kind of the idea. When you walk in, it's kind of nice to see. And I think that's where Jeremy, our brewer, that's where he shines. That's where he, if it were up to him, I think there'd be barrels everywhere.
So tell me how you and Jeremy met.
So we met through a mutual friend. When we started thinking, okay, we're going to move forward with this brewery, like we were kind of missing the biggest piece of the puzzle, which was a brewer, because I hadn't done any brewing, and I was more focused on the consumption side of it.
Of course, yes.
So we reached out to a friend who had just gone through the master's program at Harriet Watt over in Scotland for brewing and distilling. And we're like, would you ever want to come brew for us? And he was like, well, he had just taken a job at somewhere else. And so but he put us in touch with Jeremy. And, Jeremy, I guess we caught him at a good time. His wife is from Dartmouth, so they were looking to move over here from Vancouver. So, he flew over and we drank a few of his beers, and we liked what he was doing, and so the rest just kind of fell into place.
And Kelly, what did she think of all this?
Well, when we officially made the decision to start the brewery, I think she was 8 months pregnant.
Oh, no.
So she was a little hesitant, to put it delicately.
Yeah.
But once she was over the initial kind of like, what the heck are you doing? She was like, okay, I could see this being a cool venture that we could all get into, and she got on board pretty quickly, so luckily.
Good thing.
But yeah, exactly.
Your name, where did that come from?
So originally, Two Crows, it's kind of it's a Scottish nursery rhyme that goes 1 crow sorrow, 2 crows joy, Three Crows wedding, Four Crows boy, I think, and it goes on from there. But basically, the way my wife and her family have adapted that, they basically see one crow as being bad luck and two crows are good luck.
After learning about the creative origins of Two Crows Brewing from Mark, I wanted to find out more about the business and their rapid success in Nova Scotia and across Canada. To do this, I sat down with another one of the co-founders, Kelly.
So we opened in January 2017, but there was a lot of working on it before then. And our brewer came from Vancouver in May of 2016 and started brewing in our backyard. So we kind of started then, really, and then opened our doors in January 2017.
Pretty new to be in 7 provinces.
Yeah. So it's been a lot of work on, my husband works really hard on that side of things because everything's so different. There's so many different rules and regulations for each province. So it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of time, but it's really worthwhile. And like for us to see a review from someone in Vancouver that loves our beer is just like unbelievable. And because a lot of these provinces too have a really competitive market, so we have to go in with our right foot forward and make sure that the product that we're sending is going to sell. And also it's hard for distribution to get it there because we have to send it cold. So to send it from Halifax to Vancouver, there's lots of little things that we have to figure out.
Yeah, it sounds like it's complicated.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about the beer that you guys do serve.
So we have really a big variety of beer, from Pilsner to some barrel-aged beers that have taken 2 to 3 years to make. Jeremy is an amazing brewer, and we're so proud of everything he does, which makes my job easy in sales, to be really proud of the product that we're putting out, because it's just wonderful to go in and be able to do tastings with people, but to be really ecstatic with the product that we have. We had people from California coming in last year that they said they waited a year to try our beer, and that they kind of planned their trip knowing that they were going to come to Halifax and go to Two Crows. But every time the cruise ships are in, we're having tons of people off that. They do have the Good Cheer Trail, or the Good Cheer Trail book, so people will come in stamping that every day. But we're filled with tourists, and we have a hotel next door, so we have a lot of people that will come from that as well.
Yeah, lots of traffic here, I guess.
Yeah. So even on a Monday morning, our tap room's pretty full.
Wow.
With people that are traveling around.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think in Nova Scotia tourism, they said that more people visit Nova Scotia breweries than any other attraction in Nova Scotia.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think because it's welcoming. It's an environment where you get to try the different types of beer, but you also get to kind of experience the culture. A lot of times you're sitting at the bar and talking to the bartender, and it's a really fun process.
Next up on Slainte, I sit down with the brewery coordinator to learn about the inner workings at Two Crows. And we talk to the head brewer and get the chance to tour the brewery and taste an aging brew in progress. Speaking with Mark and Kelly about how Two Crows Brewing first got started had been an exciting journey. Next, I wanted to find out more about what patrons could expect to experience when visiting their tap room. To do this, I sat down with the brewery coordinator, Mitch. So Mitch, tell me a bit about what you do here at Two Crows Brewing.
It's a great question. So officially, my title is brewery coordinator, which is a very all-encompassing term.
And so some of the beers that you guys barrel age here, there's limited quantities, obviously, and you can't necessarily reproduce them. So do those ones only stay here in Nova Scotia, or do those ones go outside the province as well?
Yeah, so some of the smaller barrels that we do, the tequila, gin, port barrels, those bottles we have typically kept them just here in the brewery or here in Nova Scotia. Some of the bigger foeder beers, the Calvados and Cognac foeders, we can get a little bit more volume out of those. So those are the ones that we're typically sending out to Alberta or British Columbia, because we can sort of divvy off a little bit extra of those. So it might only be 40 or 50 cases that go at a time. But there's enough for a couple stores to get some and allow people to get their hands on them and give them a try.
Mitch, tell me about the experience, the atmosphere that people can have when they come here to Two Crows.
Sure, yeah. So I think one of the coolest things about Two Crows is that we don't have a demographic at all. From any given night, you can have a group of university students to some retirees in here enjoying pints, which is something I really enjoy. We're surrounded by like a hotel right next door, so we have a lot of people traveling through. They're just stopping by for a beer before they catch their flight back or before they're going out for dinner. Or we have the hockey parents who are here for a hockey tournament and are just dropping in saying, what can we drink at the hotel next door and get it here quick and cold. So it's kind of cool that we have a lot of people like that passing through. But we have a lot of our fun regulars too that either live above us or around the corner that you can count on them always being here on a Friday afternoon at the end of the day for a couple beers on the patio. So we try to keep it a little bit lively. We always we love having some good music on and just encourage people to enjoy it, have some conversation. The brewery's so open to people as well that we're more than happy to show people around or answer any questions and sort of let them wander around and take pictures. So we try to keep it pretty light and not take ourselves too seriously most of the time.
Talking with Mitch about the open and welcoming atmosphere at Two Crows had been a delight. Next, I wanted to find out more about their unique brew style and where this inspiration had come from. To do this, I spoke with the head brewer, Jeremy. Jeremy, tell me a little bit about your training. That seems quite in-depth.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a Master's of Science in Brewing and Distilling, based out of Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's bad enough the amount of drinking you do when you're a regular student, but when you're among 50-odd other folks that are studying brewing and distilling, and you're in Edinburgh surrounded by great whiskey, there's a lot of research you have to do. But no, a great group of folks, and that particular school has been teaching brewing for 100 and something years and distilling for about as long too. So yeah, a whole lot of knowledge out of there. And one of the main things though is the group of students that I went to school with were mostly all still in touch. And if I ever get stuck with some sort of technical brewing question, I can ask all these other guys and girls that I went to school with, and somebody will know the answer to that question or will have gone on in their career to have learned about whatever I'm inquiring about, or will have not slept through that particular lecture that I slept through. And so it's good. Yeah.
Jeremy was then kind enough to show me around their brewery. So you guys have quite a big setup here for only being open for 2 years.
Yeah.
Did you guys start this way? Did it expand? And like, how many different fermenters do you guys have here?
So we've got, we did start with all the stainless steel that you see here. And talking to a bunch of other breweries when we were getting up and running, a lot of folks said that, they started at one size, and then within the first few months they were looking to add more tanks and to expand or look for a different location or whatever. So the advice that we kept on hearing was go bigger than you think you need, and you can always grow into it because it'll cost you a lot less in the long run versus trying to expand while you're already producing or finding another location, rebuilding, stuff like that. So we have a 20-barrel brew house. So the brew house is 2,400 liters or thereabouts. And then we have 6 fermenters that are 40 barrels, 40 barrels each, 4,800 liters. So we usually do 2 brews on the brew house to fill up 1 tank. We have, 6 of these uni tanks here. We don't do any filtration or fining or anything like that of our beers. So we don't have to transfer them out of that one particular tank after it's fermented out. We'll package from the same tank that it's fermented in. And then we also have our barrel capacity. So we've got 4 barrels, or 4 big fooders that are about 20 barrels each. So 1 brew worth. And then we have the 22-ish other barrels. A bunch of my barrels so have cultures in them that will be a year in the making. I just recently emptied a bunch of them that had been a year and a half in the making. So they're sitting on fruit right now and will be packaged for release probably sometime in the new year. And then they've been filled up again, so it'll be another year and a half, 2 years before I can look at those ones again.
So exciting.
So, yeah. It's,
and how do you take care of them when they're sealed like this? I mean, I know they have some openings here. Do you Like, how do you know what's going on inside?
We take a sample
Okay.
periodically, and knowing what culture I've put in there too, I have a spreadsheet with my different barrels and where they're at and stuff. But I'll sort of know if I put in a bacteria that's not going to be ready for a year and a half. I'll pull samples every month or so just to make sure nothing's going horrendously wrong. But
Yeah.
I know I don't really need to do much with it until we're getting close to that year and a half. We're trying to strike a middle ground between old school Saison and new world Saison. So we used, it's definitely got a rustic character from the yeast that we're using, but we use some new world sort of brighter hops to it too.
Yum.
So we're thinking we'll be packaging this one in, I think it's 3 or 4 weeks. We'll be packaging it, and then it's gonna condition naturally in can before release. So it'll be probably at least 2 months before we release it, but it's coming to the end of its time in here. So
How
we can,
exciting.
the first sample is sometimes a little bit yeasty, so
Okay.
I'll grab that second glass for me here.
Well, first off, I love the way it smells.
Cool. That's a good sign.
Right? I always kind of get caught up in the scent of the beer sometimes. Definitely has like a, how would you even describe it? Kind of like almost like a fresh apple kind of aroma to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you get, but
I'll taste the yeasty sample. Oh yeah.
okay. I like it. Nice. Dry, but it's got this lovely kind of brightness to it. Next up on Slainte, Jeremy and I sit down to sample some of the exciting craft beers at Two Crows Brewing. From coffee to peach, chili, and fresh hay, some of the most unique brew flavors are up next. Learning about the origins of Two Crows with Kelly and Mark and touring the brewery with the head brewer Jeremy had been a wonderful experience. Next, we sat down to sample some of their exciting new craft creations. All right, Jeremy, so what are we trying here?
So yeah, we've got a few beers to work our way through. Perks of the job.
Yeah, right.
So the first one we're gonna try is called Waltz. It's a traditional German-style Pilsner. I know I've said in the past that we don't really brew to style, but this one is as true to style as you can get, or it's certainly the most true to style beer I've ever done. So we brewed this one with an heirloom German malt variety. Yeah, this is from a maltster in Germany using a grain that was popular, I think, in the 20s or 30s. A little bit floral as well, too.
Smells beautiful.
This is the one that I'm drinking the most of these days. It's a good sort of after-work beer, nice and crisp and clean. Really easy to drink, but there's still a lot going on, too, so you can still, you can either crush it or think about it and consider it a little bit and enjoy it. So
Ponder life
either
as
way,
you,
yeah.
It's so beautiful. I mean, the temperature of it right now, too, is just gorgeous.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
A nice, easy drinking patio beer anyway. So.
Yeah, that's lovely. Beautiful.
Next one we have in line here. So the first two beers we're doing they're both stainless steel beers, so they haven't hit oak at all. This next one is a sour beer though, with guava and strawberry. I had to think on that for a second. It's called Jamboree.
Oh, okay.
So it's soured with lactobacillus, and then it's fermented really warm with a Norwegian yeast strain that gets twice as hot as you usually let yeast get, but at that temperature, it just gives you some really cool tropical kind of notes to it.
Citrusy, like jello, tangerine kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
On the nose.
And I think that's mostly from the yeast that does that kind of tropical thing. And then,
Oh, wow.
so this beer isn't kettle soured either, so we don't do any kettle souring. So the lactobacillus is still alive in this. I find it gives you a more complex kind of sour to it as well.
It's like almost like it gets kind of like fuzzy, like the effervescent on the tongue there, which is really cool. It's almost like kind of reminds me of. It's not as sweet, but like when you like those like little
like
candies.
a fuzzy peach candy or something.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I didn't want to say it. Like, is it weird to compare this to a fuzzy peach candy? Oh, it's so good. Is it beautiful, like aroma to it? That one is hard to put down.
Yeah, right? That's good.
Yeah.
Next one is Saddle Up. So we're releasing this one today.
Wow.
So this was a food rage farmhouse beer. So it was aged in one of the giant fooders we have here. This one was brewed with a bunch of rye in the mash. And then we also used hay in the mash here. So it's kind of there is some precedence with historic Belgian brewing. They did use hay sometimes as it's meant to act as a filter aid when you have all your grains together in the mash tun. It's supposed to let the liquid flow through that a lot nicer and create a nice like filter bed at the bottom so liquid can flow through. Our experience with it was the opposite.
Oh, no.
It ended up just like forming a thick mat of hay at the bottom and not letting any liquid out. So what's usually like a 6-hour brew day was 14, 15 hours, I think. It was brutal. It was the worst brew we've had. But yeah, and then it sat in foeder for, I think, 5 months or so.
Wow.
And then we've conditioned it naturally in the can. Interesting, like tangerine and melon thing, but it's definitely got that funk and a little bit of tartness as well, too, from the different yeast and bacteria cultures that are in that foeder.
Okay, that is really cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
pretty unique. Yeah, like there's definitely that bright tangerine melon thing, but it's got like a rustic element to it as well, too.
No, it's got this, I can't put my finger on it. I mean, maybe it's the hay, I don't know.
Yeah, and I have a hard time really picking out. I think if I was served this blindfold, I wouldn't be able to tell you there's hay in this, but the power of suggestion, you think that there's, some sort of grassy kind of rustic thing.
Yeah,
Je ne sais
it's
quoi.
almost je ne sais quoi. That's what we'll say. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then the final one is Hoopla. So this is a tequila barrel-aged sour conditioned on coffee.
What?
Which seems like a bit of an odd combination. We got invited to a coffee and beer festival last January. And I know a coffee roaster, a guy who's the lead roaster for a company called Agro Coffee out of Vancouver. Being from Vancouver, I knew this guy there, and we'd always talked about doing a beer together and never really found the right opportunity. But when we got invited to this festival, we finally got to team up on something. I've always wanted to work with this guy. He's got a great palate for beer and for coffee.
Cool.
So we decided on some tequila barrels we have that were, so the base beer is about 1.5 years old.
It's very unassuming looking. Like, you wouldn't think that I would just be like, oh, this is an IPA or...
Yeah, exactly, or some sort of blonde.
Oh, whoa,
Right? Yeah.
whoa. Okay, that's like, first off, that's like the craziest mixture of aromas I've ever had. It's like coffee, like chili, like hot pepper, and then oh my gosh, I've lost my words.
Yeah. I find there's almost like a salty thing to it too, and there was no salt added, but I find there's almost a saline kind of thing from the tequila barrel and the, almost like a creaminess from the oak, certainly vanilla from the barrel as well
like
too.
I don't know if I would know that this was done in tequila, but now that like you say it, like that aroma is just like right there. So interesting.
But I tried not to be sort of overpowering on the coffee addition either.
No, it's
I tried to be
subtle.
quite restrained, but I feel like they work quite well
okay.
actually. This is one of my favorite of the barrel aged beers we've done.
That is really good.
Yeah, it's a cool one for sure.
Holy mother, that's really tasty. Does not taste the way I thought, and I don't mean that in like a bad way, but it's got the coffee and the tequila flavors just blend beautifully with the beer.
Yeah.
Which I was not expecting.
Yeah, and as I say, it's not an obvious combination to have a golden sour beer, tequila aged with coffee, but I think it works pretty well. I'm pretty pleased with it.
I'm actually astounded, because I mean, when you say, yeah, we're gonna try this coffee tequila beer, I'm like, sure.
Yeah, why not?
That's really good.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped on that one.
Easy to drink, really tasty, unusual, but it flows really well together.
Yeah.
Two Crows Brewing is unique not only because of their beautiful downtown location, but also their combination of back-to-roots ingredients meets urban innovation is creating flavors and experiences unlike any other. If you're looking for a laid-back atmosphere and craft beer that's not afraid to be exciting and different, then Two Crows Brewing is the perfect place to roost.